Andrew, you've 10 minutes.
Thank you, Laska Hirlik. I too would like to welcome the new Minister, Eoin O'Riordan, to the House this evening. A very welcome Minister to debate this issue that falls within your Department of Justice and Equality, but it also falls within the Department of Education and Skills, the Department of Health, the Department of Jobs, Enterprise and Innovation, the Department of the Environment, Community and Local Government, the Department of Children and Social Affairs and the Department of Social Protection. So we have huge involvement, I think, between all the departments, as is normally the case with issues regarding the umbrella, the loose term of disability. And I would like to say at the outset that my motion, when I put forward this motion, I'm talking about mental health. Now I know that it's come up on a much wider issue, but where I want to focus on is on mental health. I tabled this private member's motion on the back of discussions and interactions I've had in my own community and on a personal basis with individuals who have suffered from mental health issues and the difficulties they faced in returning to education at second or third level. Every member of this House is aware of the powerful impact that an education can have for an individual in not only their job prospects but in their self-confidence, emotional and physical well-being and social inclusion. And I know even today at the USI's briefing, the President, Laura Harman, even acknowledged that now in today's world that a degree is seen as a minimum requirement for most jobs. Again, anecdotally, I've heard from people who have struggled with mental health issues that they have faced barriers in gaining access to education, particularly at third level. Oftentimes, these individuals have had to become their own advocates, navigate their own way in what can be a stressful transition to education, set against the backdrop of ongoing mental health recovery and physical recovery. It is, of course, important that people with mental health difficulties act as their own advocates, that they are empowered to make the best decisions on their recovery and their future. But we must also ensure that we provide a helping hand. And I'm aware of numerous organisations in every town and village in the country who do just that. But I believe that we might better serve this group of people by providing a contact point in which they can access all of the necessary information, someone to initially guide them. A job coach, if you like, or a career advisor. A role such as this could possibly be provided through the intro office, where a plan could be mapped and tailored to the needs of the individual in accordance with their educational and employment interests. At third level, we could provide education and training to disability and access officers in universities, so that they may be a useful contact point for an individual who is studying at third level with mental health problems. And I think, again, at the briefing today, speaking with representatives there, they've said that a lot of the people would not be qualified in mental health, specifically mental health, dealing with mental health issues. Even if a regional contact was available to liaise with people when they are prepared to discuss their educational options, someone to whom you could be referred to, like a doctor, but they would be there to discuss your practical and educational needs. This, I believe, would go a long way in providing continuity, which is lacking on the medical side of things, which I have advocated on numerous occasions and needs to be addressed. This regional contact would be in a position to provide follow-up contact with the individual and hopefully provide follow-through. Ideally, such a liaison would have a medical background in order to best assist from a mental health perspective. This would certainly fall within the community ethos we are striving to achieve, as well as providing a better service overall. We need to provide a contact, or even a better first contact, that takes into account the person's overall well-being and provides practical, trusted advice in coordination with the service user. The anecdotal evidence that I have received in regarding to difficulties in accessing education is corroborated in the figures compiled by mental health organisations, such as Mental Health Reform, Amnesty International, educational groups and government departments. AHEAD compiled a report in 2013 highlighting the numbers of students with disabilities studying in the higher education. The report states that 1% of students registered on part-time courses have a disability, including a mental health disability. While I welcome the finding that the 2012-13 academic year saw the highest rise in participation from students with disabilities, with over 9,000 students studying compared to just under 8,000 in 2011-12, which is a 14.6 rise in the total number. However, I do think that it's worrying that AHEAD still has cause to alert readers to the fact that barriers remain for students with disabilities and that this cohort of students is underrepresented in our higher education system. AHEAD also acknowledges the limited choices available for students with a disability, and again, this includes a mental health disability. These students appear to be limited in their choice of course and do not have an equal footing when it comes to availing of the opportunities in place. One possible reason identified are the barriers certain professions present, which may be inadvertent. Minister, the National Disability Survey in 2011 identified 9 different types of disability, with 110,000 people identified in Ireland as having an emotional, psychological or mental health disability. Arguably, each and every one of us will experience or know someone close to us who will experience a mental health breakdown, illness or issue. Mental health reform has calculated that 10% of the population will require mental health services. We need to break down the inadvertent as well as the overt barriers that are present in the access of education. There is evidence to support that this disability group is more likely to leave employment or education than other people with disabilities. This again the backdrop of the growing necessity to have a third level qualification, skill or trade in order to secure gainful and sustaining employment. Education has become a priority, a necessity in the high-tech environment we now live in. We have placed an emphasis on upskilling, reskilling and achieving a high qualification, and this is, of course, linked with employment. An Amnesty International report regarding employment and mental health identified that a large proportion of mental health problems become evident before the age of 25. Which has an obvious and long-term impact on an individual's earning power, as they may not be able to access education or training until later in life. In 2009, it was estimated that 1/4 of illness benefit claimants cited a mental health issue, and in 2008, more than 20% of people on disability allowance identified as having a mental health problem. We need for this group to be embraced back into education and a return to work. Unfortunately, the employment of people with a mental health disability remains low, with the figure calculated at 27% in comparison to 63% of the general population. 53% of participants who encountered mental health problems had to stop their education due to their disability, according to the National Disability Survey, and this is identified as significantly higher than any other disability. A key contact point could assist in helping to pave the path for return to education or training and follow up with the individual when they stop education in accordance with data protection laws and privacy. Education is just one answer to the problem and is an answer that we have an ability as legislators to impact on. Cost remains a top priority when assessing the further rollout or set-up of new programmes in all government departments. Value for money should be our top priority. In South Dublin and Wicklow, as senators from the area may be aware, there is an excellent service on offer known as Detect. From 2006 to 2011, this service received 795 referrals from a catchment area of 375,000. Of these referrals, 347 met the criteria for a psychotic condition. In 2010 alone, Detect made contact with over 50% of their referrals in 24 hours. They halved the median delay to treatment of 19 months in 2006 to 9 months in 2011. One of the ambitions identified for this service is to provide treatment in the least restrictive and disruptive environment for the person and their family. From this service, we could see follow-through for the individual by way of referral to a community contact point who could help to guide them in accessing supports and education or training if they so choose. At second level, it becomes harder to identify numbers and difficulties, as some children may just be presenting signs of a mental health issue. But I believe that it is important that we compile statistics on the number of children who miss out on exams, junior or leaving cert, due to a mental health condition. We need further information regarding the transition from primary to second level, which has been identified as points where signs or issues may have and start or become apparent. A study or research in this area could prevent students from falling through the cracks as early as that transition from primary to secondary, which could in turn benefit the individual in terms of the future health and prospects. It is
Senator,
it is well known that the earlier the signs are identified and the earlier the individual can be treated in many cases, a better level of recovery can be achieved. As a society, we have achieved a great deal in a short space of time in reducing the stigma attached to mental health. People suffering from a mental health problem are one of the most stigmatised groups that fall under the disability umbrella, and this leads to social exclusion. There is still work to be done on this matter, and as we progress, the younger generations will hopefully adopt a more compassionate and educated viewpoint on mental health. This is one piece that will take time, but we can already see the positive transition. In order to provide better access to education for a person with a mental health disability, we need to provide training in the community for disability officers or community liaisons. Cross-departmental thinking and broad thinking on the subject and delivery continuity for service users when accessing information and medical services, and a community approach. Thank you very much. So, as I said, I have lots more that I could say, but...
Thank you, Senator. I'll ask Senator